Not every character in a fighting game can be the best. There's only so much room at the top, and it's usually limited. The top tiers are only one part of what makes fighting games great, though. And not being a top tier is nothing to be ashamed of. Some of the coolest, most mechanically unique fighting game characters don't even come close to the top, and that's fine. Tier lists only truly matter if you're trying to be hyper-competitive. And at the end of the day, if you're just trying to casually enjoy a fighting game, almost any character on the roster can get the job done. I say almost because there's a class of characters who embarrass themselves and their players just by showing up, and are more at home at the bottom of a barrel than they are on the battlefield. And you might think I mean joke characters, but I don't. Joke characters aren't usually designed to be strong. They're made to make the game more enjoyable at their expense. The guys I'm talking about are jokes, they're just not funny. Sometimes the stars align and bless a game with a character who plays so poorly with the game's mechanics, whose playstyle doesn't function, or who's simply bad at everything that they're nothing short of terrible. This is what I want to look at. The worst of the worst in fighting games, who were designed to be viable characters. Like when we talked about silly top tiers, a lot of the major fighting game franchises tend to be well balanced, so even characters at the bottom of the tier list can still play the game. Are you gonna struggle with somebody like Billy Khan, Marissa, or Enkidu? Sure, but the difference between those guys and these guys is that Billy doesn't have broken buttons that don't do anything. Marissa isn't stuck in the wrong game, and Enkidu was actually finished by the developers. The characters I found can't say the same. I can't think of a better game to start out with to find a bad character than one where every character is broken. It'll make the week really easy to weed out. I've talked about this game sometime back in the Paleolithic era, but in case you've forgotten, Hokuto no Ken is the quintessential so bad it's good fighting game. Developed by Arc System Works and released in 2005 in arcades and in 2007 on the PlayStation 2, Hokuto no Ken is a fighting game that lacks polish and is borderline broken. And if it wasn't, people wouldn't still be playing it 20 years later. How a game gets released in a state like this is a failure of quality assurance and a success for the whole human race. If a character in a fighting game has an infinite, that's cause for alarm. HNK, meanwhile, realized giving everybody an infinite was a kind of balance. The game has moves that are so poorly programmed they can break the game. Or even worse, destroy the game. Am I supposed to not bring up the arcade board melting DP? The roster ranges from solid and playable characters, with infinites, to nearly unbeatable juggernauts who also have infinites, with top threats like Toki, Rei, and Rao having the most insane tools a character can ask for. Toki is considered the game's best and has ridiculous options, including counters with as little startup as they can, short of being frame zero, incredible movement options like teleports that mean you're never safe against him, and a matchup spread that leaves the only character that can go even with him as another Toki! The developers must have looked down at their own creation and realized how good he was, and to make sure the game stayed balanced, made a character so horrible that it would even out the scales. As you can see, it was a massive success. Finding the weakest character in the game isn't too hard because the tier list is largely canonical, with Toki and Rao at the top, and Mr. Hart at the bottom. In Hokuto no Ken, Mr. Hart is one of Shin's 4 generals based on playing card suits. And despite being what is essentially a jobber, he's the first guy to give Kenshiro trouble and, as a result, has found a fandom. Characters like Yamcha and Kinnikuman Big Body often become fan favorites despite not really doing anything and getting beaten really easily. Probably because people enjoy an underdog. This led to Mr. Hart not just being included in this game, but getting his own backstory in the Gaiden sub-series, and getting a new buff form to promote fitness boxing, Fist of the North Star. Given his fandom, it's not surprising that he made it into the game, and the only thing less surprising is that he is at the bottom of the tier list. Mr. Hart's biggest weakness is just how big he is, because with how much of the screen he takes up, there's no need to get in on Mr. Hart. His massive mass is always in range of any character. Characters like Ray and Toki are super mobile and have no issues getting in, so Mr. Hart fights are like a vacation for them. Hart's girth also backfires by making his mobility miserable, leaving him as the only character in the game without the ability to boost. Boosting in HNK is a separate bar from your special meter, which allows you to dash and cancel out of recovery frames for certain moves. It's a really useful tool for approach, maintaining proper spacing, and improperly comboing. And Mr. Hart doesn't have one. Because of his size, the developers didn't give him a boost meter and locked him out of a universal mechanic. There's a world of difference between not being able to use boost effectively and not having the option at all. Mr. Hart's normals are really disappointing, with them either being stubby and fast, or far-reaching and slow, meaning that in the mid-range, Mr. Hart has no options. Some of his buttons are legendarily bad, with 2D being perhaps one of the worst moves in any fighting game. 35 frames of startup and 34 frames of recovery for a big 4 active frames. His jab has the exact same amount of active frames, with only 5 startup and 4 recovery frames. There is a 30 frame difference between his jab and his 2D. Hart also has the distinction of being so big, he has 2 spots on the tier list. One for if you're player 1, and the other for player 2. Player 2 Mr. Hart is a better character than player 1 Mr. Hart, because for some goddamn reason, player 2 Hart gets additional hit stun on his moves that you don't get if you're player 1, meaning that you have access to combos that just don't work for player 1. It's optimal play to let your big brother take the first player controller and use the Mad Catz one if you're playing Mr. Hart. With all of that though, once you get past what makes Hart so bad, you find he does actually have some special spice that makes him more viable than you realize. For instance, Hart has an extremely odd mechanic where by holding the button down during jumping C, Hart will actually store the move's hit of super armor, letting him take it with him to protect himself. This gives him a unique pseudo-resource system that gives Hart a lot more to do. Keeping the super armor makes his approach safer and lets him use unsafe moves, safe in the knowledge that the super armor will eat any counterattacks. Do I think this was intentional? Probably not, but he's not complaining. Some of Hart's moves are even good on purpose, like his grabs all being really strong, as well as having a vacuum move that drags the opponent into range for those throws to be the most effective. Earth Crush is a really good move with versatility and range, and he has access to a unique special install that, at the cost of being unable to block and having to move constantly, gives you his best moves. This includes an even stronger command grab, and his Typhoon, which by far is his best move. And when losing out on that boost bar, the devs were kind enough to throw out his other bar too, as Hart's guard can't be broken. In HNK, there is an extremely odd system where characters are placed on a tier list where lower tier characters will be forced to have a guard gauge that can be broken, therefore breaking their guard. And since Hart is at the top of this tier list, he never has to have a guard meter unless he's fighting either Shin or another Mr. Hart. Every other character, though, will have a guard meter because they're fighting Mr. Hart, who's on a higher level of the tier list. Hart's potential is so high, in fact, that he's seen as a counterpick against top-tier Ray, due to his anti-air grab being incredibly strong, and Ray spending more time in the air than he does on the ground. Even though he's an Arc System Works grappler, the worst thing you can be, and struggles against almost every character in the game, Hart does at least have a lot of interesting stuff he can do. He's in contention for the worst character, and most players would probably say he's worse, but I really can't overlook everything else wrong with the second lowest rated character in the game, Jagi. Jagi is the worst. He's a bastard, terrible at martial arts, has the worst Gaiden side story. Jagi sucks. I like Jagi, but Jagi sucks, and that carries over to HNK. Jagi fills the role of Trap Master, specifically the sub-archetype of worse Trap Master than Yuta. His game plan is to hamper the opponent with hazards left all over the stage that make the approach difficult, in the form of his gasoline attacks. Barrels and puddles can be left around the stage for Jagi to ignite with either a match or his shotgun blast. Not only does igniting them do good damage, but the puddle actually slows down opponents who move through it. That means a smart Jagi player will be leaving them all around the stage, so if he gets comboed, the opponent moving through them might be too slow and drop the combo, allowing him to counterattack. This would work, except his traps are bad and don't work. Ray can easily fly over any traps Jagi leaves for him on the ground, and Toki can teleport right through them. The game's best characters easily ignore the gasoline, and everyone else can too, since despite these traps implying Jagi would be great at anti-air to punish people who jump over them, he isn't. He only has one decent anti-air, which is pretty good, especially if the opponent is doused in gasoline, but that one attack isn't enough to properly stop people from ignoring his gimmick. If Jagi is forced to ignore his gimmick and focus on his buttons, well, that's not good because Jagi's buttons aren't good. Jagi's combo game is incredibly poor, and his damage shockingly low. Pair that with moves that just aren't as fast as the rest of the cast, and it leaves you wondering what range he is supposed to be good at. Jagi's biggest issue, though, is that a lot of his kit is based around gimmicks. He can't just do something, he has to do it in a really dumb way. Jagi's specials and supers are situational, sometimes matchup specific, and barely any of them are useful even in their best scenarios. The match you use to ignite gasoline is completely useless on its own, but is still needed because you can only ignite gas puddles using it. He has a fake surrender move that allows him to back up and spit out unblockable needles that break an opponent's star on hit, but that backup makes the move super telegraphed and easy to play around. Jagi's taunt lets him drop his shotgun, which locks him out of any shotgun-based moves, including that good anti-air, fireball, and his far C. This has no practical application, and that's including how there's a special tied to it. If you get knocked down near your gun, you can fire it off for a guaranteed star break, and even rapid fire it to break up to 3 stars at once. Not only is gimping yourself for the chance to break 3 stars at the cost of all your meter terrible, most combos in HNK don't let you touch the ground. They'll dribble you, sure, but that's not the same thing. One of Jagi's super moves is a command grab, which drains the opponent's boost and guard gauge, as well as breaking a star if it lands. But you can only use it on Shin because it references the moment where Jagi convinces Shin to steal Kenshiro's girlfriend. As a Fist of the North Star fan, it's a really cute piece of fan service. As a fan of winning the game, it's completely worthless. One of his super moves is a quiz show where he asks you what his name is, just like in the show, which deals great damage if the opponent fails to pick the right one. But if they pick correctly, they deal no damage! A funny property of this move is that it can be extended out to a second question to deal extra damage at the cost of more super meter. But if the first hit would have killed, then you extend, then they guess right, the opponent actually gets back a magic pixel of health to keep fighting. Jagi is so bad he has the potential to revive the opponent at no benefit to himself. You want to know how bad Jagi's life sucks? He isn't even allowed to block in peace. His low block has him pull out a statue to guard himself. The statue isn't like better at guarding or anything, it's just cosmetic. If you block low for too long though, the statue will break, which means Jagi is disabled from blocking low for a few seconds. Why? Other characters have to have a guard meter thrust upon them, but Jagi has it built in by default. I am, though, ignoring that Jagi does have some pretty good moves to his name. His jumping A is a really good move, his gasoline super is extremely useful, and his other special, Hokuto Ragangeki, is one of the best supers in the game. No joke. Barely any startup, safe on hit, block, and whiff thanks to the needles you can shoot out, and sets up for Jagi's infinites. Jagi is also an exceptional starbreaker. Lots of his moves, both good and bad, have great star-breaking potential, which means he's able to steal wins he shouldn't by going for his fatal KO. For those who don't know how the mechanic works, in Hokuto no Ken, there are 7 stars of death underneath your health bar, and certain moves have the property to remove stars. If you lose all of your stars, you'll be susceptible to a fatal KO, which will automatically lose you the round. Hokuto no Ken's metagame is built around these fatal KOs. They're extremely important and constantly gone for whenever the opportunity presents itself. And of course, Toki has the best one, and Jagi is the proud owner of the worst fatal KO in the game. See, the move has 3 hitboxes: the initial hitbox, the match, and the ignited gas. Only the ignited gas will trigger the fatal KO. So if you are knocked away during the first part of the attack, it'll whiff. That knockaway can be triggered by the initial hit, meaning Jagi is just as likely to hit the opponent out of his own fatal KO as he is to land it. Oh, but it gets worse, as that match has the same properties as his normal match special. So if you were to trigger it in the wrong place, you'd get this. Jagi can't even infinite properly, as despite his incredibly poor performance everywhere else, Jagi's basketball combos are the hardest to pull off on the entire roster. You can't even infinite right! Your infinites are countable, you dumb piece of shit! While I do agree that Mr. Hart is the worst of the two, Mr. Hart is bad for one central reason: his massive size and lack of mobility. Jagi, meanwhile, just falters in every regard. He can't hit hard, he can't combo, his gimmicks stink, he has more gimmicks than every other character. He's just too much for me. And to invert his brother, while Toki lists a negative for playing him as a loss of popularity, trying to win with Jagi is listed as a positive, as it shows everybody you're chill and cool. Hey, this little dude isn't even trying to win. I like him. From one anime fighter to another, we get one that's much more balanced. If you take these 2 lead weights off the scale, I'm not done talking about Muscle Grand Prix 2. Any chance I can get to try to trick people into watching Perfect Origin by doing so, I'll take it. MGP2 is a really unique fighting game, different from so many others while still being easy to learn. As somebody still trying my best to learn and being biblically bad at fighting games, I found myself in a good groove where arcade mode runs have become a lot easier. Part of the appeal of the game is its roster, spanning both Kinnikuman and its sequel series, Kinnikuman Nisei, to include so many distinct characters that even non-fans will be able to gravitate towards thanks to their designs. When looking for the best characters in the game, you obviously have the boss-tier characters like Kinnikuman Super Phoenix and Akuma Shogun, but just below that you get a good mix of different characters. You have the simple characters who use the fundamentals of the game the best, like Kinnikuman, Robin and Kevin Mask, and Brocken Jr., as well as the more complicated ones who require higher execution, but rewarded in spades, like Terryman and Kinnikuman Zebra. Seriously, have you seen what a good zebra in this game looks like? I haven't, it's nightmare fuel. If you're an asshole, you can also just pick Mountain. Ultimately though, the game is balanced well enough that you can pick anybody and get results, whether it be higher rated characters like Sneagator, or lower rated ones like Big the Budo. Nobody is incompetent. That is, except for the bottom 2. These are 2 characters so completely outclassed that any love you might have for them from the series is dwarfed by the amount of struggles you'll have just playing the game. The one I think might just be negligibly better is Scarface, or Escara as Ultimate Muscle viewers might call him. Scarface is an evil imposter justice Chojin who eventually goes so undercover, he just becomes a good guy. As a character, Scarface is a big body. Much like Big Body, so already compared to the more nimble characters, he's gonna struggle. But unlike other big characters, he doesn't have the tools to make up for it. Big the Budo has some great get-off-of-me supers, like Magnet Power Minus, which puts the opponent into heavy stun if they get too close, and also a great get-on-me super with Magnet Power Plus, which pulls opponents in from a distance. Sunshine's entire gimmick is having great wake-up options from the floor, with a sky drop great for getting away, strong throws, and the ability to simply slink away to get back into position. Unlike a lot of other fighting games, being a big character is not a detriment in Muscle Grand Prix 2, especially with how integral grabs are, and how much more range these bigger characters get. Let's not get crazy though. A lot of top tiers are very, very fast, a lot of bottom tiers are very, very slow. I'm just saying that it isn't an automatic death sentence like it is in a lot of other games. Scarface, though, doesn't have any of that. In place of any strong utility supers or gimmicks like other big characters, his pool of supers is limited to only 2 that aren't flat-out command grabs. Are those grabs strong? Of course, but not as strong as being able to pull them off. Scarface's biggest weakness is the same as somebody like Ganondorf in Smash. He can deal heavy damage, but never gets the chance to control the fight. The opponent gets to dictate everything about how the match plays out, including when Scarface is allowed to play. Scarface can't get in on an opponent due to all of his attacks being slow and short-ranged, only really being able to get stuff done with his Vader Crash and basic jab. All of the rest of his tools are simply too slow to properly react to the opponent and get them where he wants them. That speed disadvantage, lack of utility supers, big body, and bad normals means that Scarface also can't get out of pressure, not just not apply it. Where other characters like Robin Mask would have a super all about getting pressure off of themselves, Scarface instead pumps more and more into powerful throws. His only decent option comes from his only good special move, Aerial Swallow's Tail. But if you like how this move looks, guess what? Terry Man and Terry the Kid both have the same move in their Texas Condor Kick. Both of these characters having infinitely more options than Scarface does, and both being better as a result. His moves have really obvious tells to them, his combos are short, and it's hard to convert into his combos due to how sluggish his moves are. His inability to choose when he wants to fight means Scarface is best played defensively, which feels antithetical to his design. Suddenly, this strong bully character is on the back foot, running away and trying to sneak in damage where he can. His damage is great, that's his main redeeming feature, but he lacks a way to properly deal that damage. His grab range is good, but in this game, you're not throwing out special grabs unless you're absolutely certain that it will land, because the punishment for not hitting one is loads of ending lag, and if the opponent sees that, they're going to rip you apart. It's not like a character like this can't exist in Muscle Grand Prix 2. Really, everything Scarface wants to be, Buffalo Man already is. Buffalo Man is a slow bruiser, but when he swings, you feel it. He is strong as hell. With slow buttons, sure, but way more utility thanks to moves like Hurricane Mixer and Poisoned Knee Lift. 2 moves Scarface would kill for. Scarface was long considered the worst character in the game, and there's certainly an argument to be made that he still is, but one thing he has going for him, prepare for the ultimate backhanded compliment, he can still play the game of Muscle Grand Prix 2. What Scarface has to himself isn't very good, but the universal systems of the game don't let him down. If you want to play him like a snapping turtle, staying back and playing defensive until the exact moment to try to steal a win, he can steal wins. Is this effective or fun? Debatably, but it still put up results, as unlike the true worst character, Scarface does have a tournament win to his name. You're gonna struggle. A lot. But if you push Scarface, he can give you results. That's because he isn't trapped in the wrong game like the real worst character, Planet Man. Planet Man is one of the 6 Devil Knights who serves Akuma Shogun. And unlike his contemporaries in Sneegator, Sunshine, and Ashura Man, Planet Man hasn't been praying to Satan hard enough and is doomed to worst character status for a lot of reasons. First off is that Planet Man is the game's only dedicated zoner, having 3 projectile supers, where most characters have 0. While he does lack a meterless fireball that a character like Atlantis would have, Ringstone, Planet Ring, and Apollo Dynamite are meant to cover 3 different ranges and act as utility to handle an opponent from any distance. Being the game's only dedicated zoner makes it seem like he should be a great character. The game is all about grabs and getting in close to an opponent, so why shouldn't the character made to stop that be the best? Well, it's because a zoner is actually completely useless in a game like Muscle Grand Prix. See, Muscle Grand Prix doesn't just have a sidestep, which Planet Man would really rather you not know about, but a parry as well, which works on all of the very few projectiles in the game. That means that a projectile-focused character would be at a huge disadvantage, and any character on the roster has counters to them baked into the game itself. It's like how in Third Strike, a character like Remy can't afford to projectile spam since parrying shuts him down automatically. Planet Man's gameplay style isn't made for a game with parrying, but especially not a 3D game with parrying. If you can't parry, just double tap up or down and Planet Man can't hurt you. But at least the projectiles he has are good, right? All 3 of them suck for different reasons. Ringstone is the best one, but has an unbelievably high startup at 37 frames. Planet Ring is slow as hell, covers a very short distance, and comes out at a really awkward angle that makes follow-up extremely hard. Apollo Dynamite is the one you're going to be using the most, since Planet Man's one combo uses it, but I'd say it's probably the worst one. Because unlike the other 2, the only thing you need to do to counter it is walk towards Planet Man. It sets up a high launch, which is really good, but is absolutely useless at 2 out of the 3 ranges. If they're too close or too far away, it does nothing. This is a zoning tool that is countered by moving towards the zoner. As well, all of these moves eat loads of meter, so you're gonna need to find some way to try and build meter to keep up your zoning, which means you're either charging, trying to hit the opponent, or getting hit. With how bad Planet Man is, you're gonna be relying on that third option. So he's a zoner with bad projectiles. This is a great start. I can't wait to see how many more cars we can add to this pile-up. Planet Man's basic moves outside of his specials are garbage, with a 17 frame startup jab making it one of the worst jabs in the entire game. Sounds bad, right? Comparing it to a jab like Brocken Jr.'s or Warsman's, who only have 11 frames of startup, or Neptune Man, who might be 15 frames but deals 28 damage to Planet Man's 12, but hey! This is actually one of his fastest moves. So many of Planet Man's moves are abysmally slow, that it leaves his combos feeling really unsatisfying and like there are holes in them. Holes that an opponent can tear into with basic mashing. Planet Man's combo potential is really bad, having a small pool of natural combos and even less that can be practically pulled off. Just like Scarface as well, his pitiful frame data leaves him totally incapable of getting away from or applying pressure, forcing you to wait until your opponent's hand cramps to get the opportunity to try to start winning the game. Except unlike Scarface, Planet Man doesn't even get to have high damage. His combos are too short and base damage too low to consider any of his combos worthwhile. As if life couldn't get any worse, sometimes the stars align into a middle finger for Planet Man, as his moves just don't work. For the perfect example, there's his standard super, a 2-hit kick that will stun the opponent when it lands. Stun states are good. They stop the opponent from hitting you, which Planet Man desperately needs help with. Except the first kick has too much knockback, meaning that unless you're nestled deep in the corner or against the ropes, the first hit actually combos out of the second hit, making it just a pathetic damage dealer with no stun. Oh, and in case you thought that was all, it doesn't even work 100% of the time in the corner, and will still whiff on occasion at complete random. That means you can't rely on it, and if you do throw it out and it fails, you put yourself in the easiest punish state for your opponent to take advantage of. Unlike other heavy stun moves as well, it can't force the opponent into a rope bounce, because the developers fucking hate Planet Man. This is all on top of the base issue that by using this move, you're spending meter that you're supposed to be accruing for your special projectiles. That's not the only one that doesn't work. Apollo Dynamite is meant to be unblockable, as it's your heavy damage AoE projectile that can punish people trying to sidestep it. Only, because the move wasn't coded properly, it is blockable, making it super easy to avoid. As if that wasn't bad enough, sometimes this happens. Planet Man's kick-based attacks have a bad habit of going off-axis for no reason, meaning that an attempt to snuff out an approaching enemy becomes a clown show of Planet Man missing kicks to an opponent who isn't even fighting back. All of this with a body as big as Scarface's, meaning you get none of the benefits of a big character and all of the downsides. Planet Man is a terribly designed character in MGP2, and it feels kinda bad pairing him with Scarface. Scarface can at least win matches. Planet Man's too ashamed to show his goddamn face after missing 7 consecutive kicks to an opponent 2 inches in front of him. The footage that I'm using of me playing through arcade mode as Planet Man is the most Planet Man footage that exists anywhere on the internet. The only other person even attempting to make Planet Man work is Maxev on Twitter, who helped me fact check and punch up this section, and by playing as him, has become the #1 Planet Man player in the world. This game has a walking toilet, who throws poop and has a very unflattering charge animation from behind, and he's better than both of these guys! For the final game, this may come as a shock to fans of the franchise, but did you know that Guilty Gear actually had a first game? Yeah, it's not Strive! Guilty Gear was a hidden gem for a long time before Strive took it to new heights, and for years it's dazzled players with its innovative gameplay and confused newcomers with its dumb names. Listen, we've gotten used to them, but Guilty Gear XX Accent Core Plus R sounds like somebody shot a dictionary and pieced together the title from scraps that flew out of it. You wanna know how bad it is? The first Guilty Gear isn't even called Guilty Gear. It's called Guilty Gear Missing Link. How are you missing a link? There's only one of you! Missing Link is such a weird game. It's kind of the Guilty Gear we all know, but everything's just wrong. The music's a little off, the sprites are weirder, the moves aren't all there, Soul doesn't have a face. It's hard to describe, but you can tell just how bad first game syndrome hit Missing Link. That said, it's still a really fun fighting game, and popularized mechanics that would define the series and fighting games as a whole, like Roman cancels and bursts. That's because those are in Guilty Gear X, and those wouldn't exist if it weren't for Missing Link. It's the least explored Guilty Gear game outside of, like, Petite Guilty Gear, thanks to its age and jank, but that doesn't mean we were clueless about who the best is. Now, try and act surprised here, but the fast characters are good, and the slow characters are bad. Crazy, right? Top tiers include Chip, Milia, and the one-and-done Dr. Baldhead. All 3 share common traits, like a lack of real weaknesses, relatively easy supers, and speed that's second to none. But mirroring these 3 are 3 characters so bad, so poorly made, that in some cases the job of finishing the characters comes down to the player rather than the developers. To start with the only one of these 3 that functions properly, we have Potemkin. Yes, he is as bad as 2 characters who weren't finished. So Arc System Works has a really interesting design ethos when it comes to designing grappler characters. where they flip a coin to decide on making them either the best or worst character in the game. If it lands heads, you get Tagger, whose dust loop page reads like a suicide note. If it lands on tails, you get Z Broly, who just kept adding armor to Lariat Express to see if anybody would stop him. And they didn't! However, one time the coin landed on its side, and that's how we got Potemkin. Now, I'm not a Guilty Gear fan per se. I like the games, I like the characters, I like the world, but I've never gotten into the gameplay. But I am a Potemkin fan. I enjoy the platonic ideal of a character who puts their name into their signature move. Potemkin is a grappler's grappler. Even if he isn't the strongest character, the Potemkin Buster is a move to be respected and feared. Able to turn games around in a single grab, and 0 to death chip in only 2. He's also got a variety of moves to help him achieve his goal of Buster or Bust, like his Flick to put a stop to any zoning, and Slide Head to make his approach safer. Potemkin can vary a lot from game to game as to where he places on the tier list. He can be low tier like an Exard, middle of the road like an Accent Core. Heck, he actually seems to be the best he's ever been right now in Strive. Potemkin can be a lot of things, but one thing is always true. He's fun to play, and even more fun to watch. That's why seeing how he started in Missing Link is so shocking. Potemkin in Missing Link is just... oh my god! So first things first, a lot of Potemkin's traits were established early, like the fact that he lacks a forward dash. This follows him throughout the series, but he does get a great tool to make up for it in Hammerfall, a charge input that lets him dash in while having armor, to snuff out any attempts to stop him. And Missing Link Pot doesn't get that. He doesn't get the Flick, he doesn't get Hammerfall. I'd say he at least has Sliding Head, but it's debatable if that's a good thing. In later games, Sliding Head is a full-screen Quake Unblockable that acts as a great way to keep people from zoning Potemkin out. It forces them to jump or get hit, where Potemkin can then Hammerfall his way in for a Buster. Not only does Potemkin not have Hammerfall to capitalize on Sliding Head, but he's always going to get punished whenever he uses it, thanks to the move being techable. Tech in this game is done by pressing up and attack when getting hit to recover super fast. And Sliding Head, in this game called Graviton Stomp, can be teched immediately, negating all effectiveness it could have as a move to let Potemkin in. Not really the negative it sounds like, since in is not really a place Potemkin wants to be, as his horrible normals and combo game see him helpless at the range he should be best at. His combo game is truly depressing. It's difficult to convert into any real damage with him thanks to his slow normals. And his one bread and butter combo that can deal damage doesn't even work all the time! If the opponent is crouching, the final Mega Fist that ends out the combo just doesn't hit. And if the opponent is Cliff, Biken, or Axel, they don't even need to crouch. Their profiles are so low, Potemkin naturally misses them. All Axel has to do to dodge is just be himself. Also, due to his lack of a dash, Potemkin is one of the only characters in the game lacking an infinite combo, which, while they're definitely overblown in Missing Link for their effectiveness, totally still exist and should be worried about. Potemkin not having one is just another way he struggles to do anything the rest of the cast gets to do with ease. Funnily enough, his best tool is still Potemkin Buster. The move is strong, though noticeably weak for a Buster, comes out frame 1, has no whiff animation, and can be guard cancelled into, making for an incredible counter tool. Stuck in the Corner is Potemkin's home stage in this game, so it's a useful tool. Overall, Potemkin is a character with nothing he's especially good at, can't show off the few good things he can do, and has to work his ass off for rewards that just aren't worth it. I'd argue Potemkin might be worse than the next two simply because those two are broken. Meanwhile, Potemkin was meant to be this way. This is all going according to plan. The second character, and first of the Broken Brothers, is Axel. He's British and wears jorts. he was destined for great things. And in later games, he would get them. Accent Core especially is where he's at his best. Even if he's not as good in Xrd and Strive, you can be sure that Missing Link Axel is begging to be that high up and that competent. So Axel's most defining trait in every game he's in is his range. His chained sickles allow him to control the area around him with ease, thanks to fast, far-reaching normals. He's most comparable to Dhalsim in that regard, but where Dhalsim supplements that moveset with a fireball and his famous dive kick, Axel in this game sucks. See, his range is incredible, some great stuff. Jumping heavy slash is a lot of fun. But the end of the sickle is the only hitbox on a lot of these moves, meaning that unlike a Dhalsim, whose long normals have appropriate hitboxes, here only the very tip of the move will damage you, meaning that you're nowhere near as safe as you feel. Despite his good movement speed, that range also comes with a huge attack speed problem, wherein the time it takes for the sickle to come back, the opponent can recover and punish you pretty easily. These are all pretty standard weaknesses though, so what do I mean when I say Axel isn't finished? Well, Missing Link has a charge mechanic. Not like in Fighters, or even charge as in Guile or Hydern. Each character has a chargeable move that you can perform by performing the move's input with the respect button instead of the attack button. Respect in this game is taunt, but on a different button. So for a character like Dr. Baldhead, if you do a DP motion and hold respect, you can charge your hack and slash move to increase its damage by loads. Potemkin has one, but he has the slowest charge in the game and a bad charge at that, so don't worry about it. Charge also allows you to charge cancel, canceling out of normals into a charge to negate ending lag and perform charge cancel specific combos. So, which of Axel's moves has the charge? Is it his one good one in Dototsu? Please say it's Dototsu. None of them! Axel can't charge! Oh, so it must be a gimmick, right? Like, he can't charge his moves, but he gets a strong tool in its place, right? Oh, we didn't even think of that. Him and the game's two boss characters are the only ones that can't charge. And while it makes sense for the boss strength characters, Axel not having one automatically makes him weaker than the rest of the cast. Even with these multiple problems, Axel being unfinished does have an advantage. See, they forgot to give him all of his hurt boxes. 2H, Jumping Punch, and all of his specials and supers have some period of invulnerability where he can't be hurt simply because his hurt boxes aren't there. Axel is still terrible, whether or not he has all of his hurt boxes all the time, but their exclusion does lead to descriptions like this, where Dototsu is invincible for the first 3 frames, then frame 6 to 15, then again from frame 24 to 28. Being the second best low-tier weapon-wielding blonde British man with a bandana in a fighting game must be a tough pill to swallow, but it's at its toughest in Missing Link. Our final character, and worst off out of the bunch, is the game's mid-boss, Testament. Now, like Potemkin, I like Testament. I think they're cool, their design is neat, I like their scythe and how much envy it gives Axel, and they soon get a funny hat. When I found out they'd been around since the first entry in the series, I thought it'd be cool to check out and see what they were like. Now, you might think that they're really good after the last 6 examples we've gone over, but they're actually really bad. So Testament is meant to be a combination Trapmaster and Zoner. Sounds like Jagi, which is a good place to be at. Testament's specials aren't terrible. Phantom Soul is a good projectile, Gravedigger is a super fun move to spam and close the gap, and those are actually Testament's only good special moves, I apologize. The rest are so goddamn slow, with anywhere from 30 to 90 frames of startup to execute properly. How are you going to keep people away if it takes a whole 2 seconds to launch a move? I get it, it's supposed to be a trap, but I think a trap should be usable whenever you set it, not 2 seconds after you launch it. They thankfully have close to the worst instant kill in the game, so things are only getting better. But where Axel was bugged to the point of not working, Testament passed that point about 10 minutes ago. Okay, so as a boss character like Justice, Testament can't charge. Justice doesn't care about this, because Justice is invincible while walking backwards, so what the hell could she have to worry about? Testament, meanwhile, has to play the game like a goddamn farmer, so this is a disastrous debuff. Except that's not all they're missing. Because remember how important I said teching was in this game? Especially because it's the only way to escape some infinite combos? Testament can't tech. Pressing up and attack after getting hit does nothing. Meaning other infinites that really just need to be teched out of, like Soul's 66K, can't be escaped, making them true infinites. Why is Testament missing this ability? No reason. But you want to know what's worse? They can get it back! But it requires a little development minigame to achieve. By selecting any other character in the game, getting knocked down hard by a move, and then going back to character select and picking Testament, the game stores the value of a tech being possible and will apply it to Testament. Except unlike every other character in the game, you can only tech with the respect button instead of any of the attack buttons. Pressing anything else while in the fan-dubbed Textament state could possibly ruin it and force you to go back and do it all over again. Have you ever had a fighting game without a character creator hand you a character and say, if you're so smart, you finish it? Susano in BlazBlue does it, but when he does it, it's cool. Even after you perform the minigame, there are still some major oversights. Like Dimension Scythe, their trapping special which limits the opponent's movement. Backdashing during that makes you invincible for as long as you're trapped, making it so any pressure or traps you'd hope to apply during the stopped time don't work! These three being in the state that they are is a major part as to why Missing Link has gone unexplored to any serious degree. If the game is so broken that 3 characters on a roster of 13 are unplayably bad, who knows what other jank is waiting beneath the surface? SNK, this is the first fighting game you've made since I've become a fan of your stuff, and I've been really excited for City of the Wolves, and then you pissed in my mouth, and then you shit in my mouth. Could you please f*** off? Please, please f*** off.